welcome back. And if you tuned in late, I have two guests, and I'm going to quickly introduce them. And Stephen Burritt is here, and of course he's here for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He's the state director, and Corporal Bill Rhyne, who is upstate community relations and trying to keep people safe. And we're talking about our roadways, and we have some of the worst problems in the United States.
We do, and it all comes back to decision making and doing everything we can. And you know, Bill made some great points before the break about the fact that laws can only do so much to change behaviors. I do want to mention one exception to that rule, and something Matt is real passionate about, is we can't always stop people from their first DUI sometimes, unfortunately, because everyone's got to make that decision for themselves. But we have a real problem, of course, a lot of the crashes that occur from repeat DUI offenders, which is heartbreaking on multiple levels, particularly when there is a victim in a crash like that. Not only is it terrible to ever be affected by a drunk driving crash, but to know that that person has done it before, sometimes multiple times, and somehow the system has allowed them to be back on the road, just adds that extra layer of frustration that they have to deal with. So one of the things that we're real passionate about in South Carolina could do this and would see a reduction in lives being saved is to expand the use of what we call ignition interlock devices. A lot of people have heard these are the little, almost like the breathalyzers connected to your car that you have to blow in to get them to start. In our state, we require some DUI offenders to have them. We need to get it to what 29 other states have now done to make it where everyone who gets convicted of a DUI for some period of time has to have one of these devices on their car, and if they blow with any detectable alcohol, it won't start. That's a way, that's one of the few examples where sometimes our laws can directly affect people's behaviors, because literally the car will not let them turn it on. And one day we hope that smart cars of the future won't let any drunk driver operate them, and that technology is actually coming along very well. But until that day and we have that, we at least need to promote people making good choices, and having people who get their first DUI have to have one of these devices, and it kind of retrains people to drive sober again. They kind of remember, oh yeah, I should never get behind the wheel if I've been drinking, and that device really can block people from doing that if they don't have that self-control. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, what does the law say? If we obey the law, what does it say?
Well, in South Carolina, it's illegal to drive while you're impaired under the influence of alcohol. If you are stopped and you are thought to be under the influence of alcohol, you're going to be given a list of sobriety tests, and if you complete those or not, it's up to that officer's discretion at that point in time. They are the ones that are going to make that ultimate decision. But under the law, you cannot have a blood alcohol. You cannot be operating a vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. That officer has the discretion, though, to take you down at that point in time and make that decision on whether or not he's going to offer you that breath test. And at that point in time, if you blow above that 0.08, he's going to make the appropriate charge at that point in time of driving under the influence. Okay, but our law says what? At what age can you get a license? Oh, you can get your license at 15 years old.
At 15?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can get your permit at 15.
Okay, but there is no law out there that allows you to drink and drive.
No, what you have to understand is there's a fine line when we start looking at that. The law does not say you cannot drink alcohol and get behind the wheel of a car. What the law says is you cannot drink and be under the influence or impaired and get behind the wheel of a car. People need to make sure, we have to make sure that that is understood, because sometimes it is taken out of context. Now, me personally, what I would rather see is nobody drink any alcohol whatsoever and get behind. Plan ahead. Have that designated driver that can get you where you need to be and keep you from being on the road or taking any chances, because, at the end of the day, Peggy, you don't know how your body's going to react to alcohol. None of us do. You may have some cold. There could be all kinds of underlying things that you do not know that are going on within your body at that point in time. And when you put that alcohol into your body at that point, you have no idea how you're going to react to that. And then if you get behind the wheel of a car, obviously something could tragically happen, and that's what we don't want to happen. It's something I think that we really need to focus on and make sure that everybody in the state of South Carolina understands, and they've probably seen it all over the state. We started our campaign of Target Zero in South Carolina, and you've seen our campaign commercials where we talk about, what's an acceptable number of people for us to lose in the state of South Carolina. And we've gone all over the state, and we've gone to each region, and we've just walked up and asked people that, what's acceptable to you? And they'll give you numbers. Ironically, they will give you a number that they think, and then you step back and say, okay, then what's acceptable in your family? What's an acceptable number for your family? And of course, every time it's 0. They don't want anybody to lose their life and their family. And people ask us all the time, well, is that theoretically even possible for y'all to have 0 fatalities? Well, absolutely it is. We've got counties in the state of South Carolina every year that don't have any fatalities in those counties. And whose life is it worth us not getting out there and giving 100% of our efforts to ensure that we have 0 fatalities on the roadway? But what everybody has to understand is this is not a law enforcement responsibility. This is not a public responsibility. This is everybody's responsibility. If you operate a car, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a bicyclist, whether you're a motorcyclist, whether you operate a commercial motor vehicle, whether you drive a truck, whether you drive an automobile, whether you're a police officer, EMS, doesn't matter what you do. We all have to be in this together. We all have to, share our part and realize that the only way that we can ever get to that goal of 0 fatalities in the state of South Carolina is we all have to work together and recognize that it's every one of our responsibilities.
Now, Stephen, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, you have special programs, don't you, for people?
We do. We have different programs and different campaigns and initiatives at different times of year. For those, obviously, a lot of your viewers are here in the upstate of South Carolina, where I think there's a lot. MAD's going to be very busy in this area over the next year, which I'm very excited about. In November, we're going to be holding our 3rd annual chili cook-off the week before Thanksgiving, and that event is to kind of kick off our holiday designated driver campaign. And a lot of people know MAD by the red ribbons on cars.
Yes.
We really promote that during the holiday season, so we'll be doing a chili cook-off to kind of announce the launch of that campaign for this year, and also to thank our first responders and our law enforcement officers. So it's a fun event that we do really just for first responders to tell them thank you for what you do. We know going into the holiday season you're going to be working even longer hours. You're going to be away from your family even more. There's going to be more crashes you have to deal with.
Yeah.
But thank you for doing that. And then coming up next fall, we're bringing our signature event to the upstate. I'm excited about that. So our big event we hold every year is called Walk Like Mad. It's our big 5K fundraiser public event where we bring together
And
everyone.
that'll be here in the upstate.
It'll be here in the upstate in the fall of 2017. So very soon we're going to start to bring together a group of volunteers to help plan that, everything from picking the date and the place to then putting all the plans together. So if anyone's been interested in wanting to get involved in MAD, now's a great time to do that. They can reach out through our website or our phone number. But this is a great time to get involved with MAD in the upstate because we've got some big plans and things upcoming that we want to get
And
people
we have a
involved in.
website and a phone number, and I'm assuming that it's on there, on the screen. So now, what do people, if somebody, you need members.
Absolutely.
So what do people have to do? Does it cost a lot of money? Do you have to commit a lot of time? How do you become a member of MAD?
So we obviously just want people to support and play whatever role they can play. So for some people that means donating, which is wonderful. We're a nonprofit, so that's how we grow and do what we do. Volunteers are precious to us. We have a very small staff, and it's a relatively big state, particularly when it comes to the issue of drunk driving. So volunteers really are how we can do many different events and programs and initiatives across the state. People can do as simple a thing as going to our website and signing up for our monthly newsletter by email that we send out, just to kind of keep track of what we're doing, and they may find something in there that really interests them. One other volunteer opportunity that's still a relatively new one that we have, and I'm excited to talk to the folks in the upstate about, because this is one of the areas we do that, is called court monitoring. So we know that unfortunately, in our state, we make prosecuting DUIs very difficult on our law enforcement and our solicitors. There's lots of loopholes and ways to get out of tickets.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and things get pled down all the time. And so MAD wants to do what we can and really help collect some information on what's really going on with DUI cases in the courtroom. So right now, if people want to reach out, they could do this. We're looking for folks with flexible daytime schedules, so that could be students or seniors or stay-at-home moms or whoever might fit in that category. We can train them through an online training and ask them to go to court in Greenville or Pickens counties 2 or 3 times a month. It's not an everyday thing they have to do. And literally, we will train them how to take notes and keep track of what's happening with DUI cases. And so we can really start to report to the whole state what really is happening with DUI, because we know it's kind of a mess, but no one really has the numbers to put it together. So it's a great new volunteer opportunity for folks who are kind of interested in the legal process and what happens in the courtroom, and also to know that they're contributing to making a difference in the issue of drunk driving.
It's a little too easy, isn't it, for somebody who get behind the wheel of a car and they have too much to drink and there's an accident and nothing much ever happens to them. They're just free to go on their merry way.
We've got,
We need tougher laws, don't we?
We have, I think people can debate whether our penalties are stiff enough. Some people say yes, some people say no, but I think it really comes back to all those, as you're saying, all those ways out of tickets, unfortunately, that we have. We make it too hard. Other states don't make it so hard to prosecute a DUI as we do in South Carolina. So
Why is that?
I wish I knew, but we're always down there at the State House trying to change things and make it better and safer for everyone. But unfortunately, it's a difficult climate for DUI reform in our state. But if people keep talking about it and they keep saying we need to be better about this, it will start to make a difference over time. It's the best thing we can do is keep talking about it and say that being worst in the nation of drunk driving is not something we can accept. It's not something we can
And we
live
are.
with.
That's where we are, isn't it?
It is. When we're where we are, we should be doing everything possible to get out of that, that
Are we
negative
the top
distinction.
state in the nation for
We
DUI?
were number 2 in 2014 for DUI-related fatalities. But Peggy, one thing I want to make sure you know is in 2015, we arrested over 21,000 drunk drivers in the state of South Carolina.
What?
Yes, ma'am. But understand this, regardless of what our laws are, realize and recognize that law enforcement, regardless of the circumstances, are going to be out there enforcing these laws no matter what. We're going to get them off the road. We get them off the road when they pose the greatest risk, and that's what people have to understand. Stephen can talk about the law side of it all day long. That's something that I can't talk about. What I do talk about is the fact that we're going to enforce the laws that are on the books and what it allows us to do, and it does allow us to get out there and get those threats off the road that night, and that is our job, and that's what law enforcement is working diligently through the law enforcement networks throughout the state of South Carolina. Like I said, over 21,000 arrests were made last year alone in the state of South Carolina.
And that's just for DUI.
That's just DUI.
So many times we're distracted. We have our mind on, so we may not have been drinking, but we have other things going on and we're distracted. So we need to be mindful when we get behind the wheel of that car.
That's right.
And to talk to your kids if they're going to drive.
That's right. And just remember, I always am going to go back to the same thing. Driving an automobile is about making the right choices.
Okay. We're out of time. We could talk forever. Thank you for all that you do for our state and for everybody. To stay safe. And we'll see you next time.